Hey everyone, welcome back to Doozy Talks with Susie, where we keep it real with the fitness, nutrition, mindset, and how to live in sync with your body and your purpose. So, let me start with asking you something. Have you ever felt like your body was just fighting against you no matter how hard you try? You're doing all the right things, but you still feel tired, you still get bloated, anxious, you're gaining weight for no reason. Don't worry, that was me for years. I thought it was normal. That's the worst thing was I was like, dude, maybe this is just normal. Women in their 30s, this is just what we deal with. And maybe I'm just doomed forever. This is just the normal. Everybody deals with it. And then I started realizing I wasn't doomed, and you're not either. So today I'm going to break down how I healed my gut, got my hormones back on track, and finally started feeling myself again, all naturally. And it's all backed by my own DNA. We're going to pause right there for a second. If you haven't done it already, I believe everyone should get their DNA test. Get your DNA checked. Look at what your genes are telling you about how your body functions. Our body is constantly talking to us, and we have to listen to what it's saying so that we can give it the best nutrition possible and live our best lives. So, all that being said, let's talk about what I was dealing with almost every day and every day. So, constant bloating. I literally looked like I was 4 or 5 months pregnant. Even when I barely ate, I would eat just a little bit of food, maybe 400 or 500 calories. And I'm walking around bloated all day. I don't know why. I can't figure out what's going on. I had stomach pain, constipation, body odor. It was embarrassing, people. I'm telling you. Then I had to deal with dry skin and dry hair. And no matter how much water I drank, it wouldn't stop. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then on top of that, maybe it was partly due to some of these problems I was dealing with here, but I had the anxiety, I had mood swings, trouble sleeping. And again, I was like, well, I'm a girl. Maybe it's just girl problems. Maybe this is just part of life, doomed. Just live with this forever. Then I also had the hormonal issues, irregular periods, and feeling off all month long. I know we have that few days here and there where that's normal, but all the time was a little excessive for me. And here's the crazy thing. Doctor, they told me everything looked normal. And maybe there's just a little hormone imbalance. Here, take a pill. And I was like, I know that the pill, it's kind of like a band-aid. But how are we going to actually fix the underlying issue here? Because something is off. We need to fix what's off, not just cover up and put a band-aid on it. I even tried with a naturopathic doctor trying to figure things out. Nothing was working for me. So I figured maybe I'm just dramatic. Maybe, again, maybe I'm just stuck with this. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right because what I had been learning throughout my life, and I learned this in college as well from one of my professors, our bodies are they're like a self-correcting machine. If you give it the right nutrients that it needs, your body is going to thrive naturally and it's going to heal. So if you're sick and then you give yourself the nutrients you need, you're no longer sick. And I stood by this. I believed this. And so I'm like, dude, I can't live like that. Why is this not matching up for me here? So I was losing my mind, I felt like. And so I kept digging deeper. I read and books, I watched podcasts, I listened to professionals, I listened to doctors, and I'm like, dude, what am I missing? And then I started hearing about this DNA gene testing. And that started changing. Once I got my DNA test, I was able to start changing things. I started learning things about myself. So I got my raw DNA file and started learning each of my genes. We got lots of genes, people. But I started learning about specific genes in my body that maybe needed some help because they had variants in the genes. And we can go into that in a different video. But basically, not all of my genes are functioning properly. And the DNA is literally your body's blueprint and how it handles things like digestion, detox, hormones, energy. And here's some of the biggest gene mutations I found. I'll go over them briefly and I'll try to go into a little bit of detail about what it means and how it affects me. So here's the first one is MTHFR. This one is becoming more popularized, which is amazing because I think it's very important. Growing up, my mom would always tell us, you need your B vitamins, it gives energy. And it's true. It is very true. But if your MTHFR gene is mutated, you cannot process regular B vitamins. And that can include in the food. What if it's in the foods, it's easier to process. They use the word methylate and turn it into the usable form that our body knows how to use. But our body is still going to struggle. And I had this mutation. So it affects how my body processes folate, which is B9. And you need this vitamin for energy, mood, hormone balance, and detox. So basically, my body's just having problems with just that piece. If this gene isn't working well, synthetic vitamins like folic acid that's what's in most store-bought supplements, and that can actually backfire. If you see something that says fortified with B vitamins, you buy a box of cereal or you buy what's one that I thought was really good, nutritional yeast. I bought nutritional yeast because it's so good for you, healthy B vitamins, and it was one that was fortified with B vitamins, and then I found out, oh, this has folic acid, not actually folate. So it can be found also in foods that can be added in. So this gene also affects something called homocysteine. And that's a stress chemical that if it's too high, it raises your risk of anxiety, depression, stroke, and hormone balance. So you really want to keep your homocysteines in check. And there's a few different genes that if they're mutated, they can make homocysteine levels higher. But you want to keep the homocysteine levels down at a safe level. And you could actually check that, I believe, in your blood work. So if you're able to get that information from your doctor as well, that would be very beneficial. You can look at your own information and see exactly what your body is telling you. The next gene that I found out and I started studying about was my COMT, or some people call it COMT gene mutation. And this gene, it helps you break down stress hormones like dopamine and estrogen. And my version, it's at the medium. So there's high functioning, medium, and then slow. Mine was medium. And the main struggle with that is that I have multiple gene mutations. And so it makes, if I get my other mutations are slow, then that means my COMT gene is just going to naturally function a little bit slower than the average COMT. So hormones start building up in my system, and then that leads to stress, overstimulated, very moody during certain times of my cycle, if you know what I mean. So it was just, if I was able to get that gene taken care of, then perhaps my mood could stabilize. And that's something that kept going through my head is like, dude, also COMT helps with stress, which helps with sleep. I said that backwards. But if your COMT is mutated, then you may find that you struggle with sleep as well. So that was something else I was struggling with. And I was like, man, if I can get this one taken care of, then maybe I can sleep better. Everything will start regulating better. And it started changing. It was amazing. So there's also these other ones, a CBS, HMT1, and MTRR. And these work together in the methylation cycle, which is when your body is taking nutrients from the food that you ate, turning them into the usable form, and then sending it out into your body for healing and keeping you healthy. So that's what these genes do. And when they're not functioning efficiently, your gut, your brain, your hormones, your detox pathways, they all get backed up. And that means sulfur can build up in your body from food. And even that can cause bloating, bad breath, painful gas, and even skin problems. And once I saw how my genes were working, everything started to click. I was like, aha. When I started seeing these things, it can't be as simple as that. Is it really something that simple? It's just the food that I'm eating. My body doesn't know how to process it right. I need a few extra nutrients. I was somewhat in disbelief about it at the beginning. So when I realized my body wasn't broken, it just needed that right kind of support, I completely changed my approach. And here's what I did. I started with diet change and I shifted away from grains, beans, really most plant foods because my gut just couldn't digest them. I'm telling you, I would eat 3 bites and my stomach would start hurting. And I was going, man, what is going on? And the more I give my body more time away from those foods, the easier it is for my body to digest. Once a week, I can have something that maybe has wheat in it, or maybe I could have some beans or some kind of a legume. I can have it once or twice a week and not experience any discomfort. If I do more frequently, then I start noticing the pain, the bloating comes back, the discomfort, but my body can handle a little bit at a time during the week. But mostly, I started moving more towards carnivore-based diet because my body could handle it better. And so I eat more clean meats, healthy animal fats like ghee, and small amounts of low reactive things like coconut oil and blueberries, coconut water. Carrots are less reactive generally, but there are a lot of things that can be reactive. And this reduced inflammation in my gut and it gave my body the nutrients that it could actually use because my body wasn't constantly inflamed from eating foods that my body couldn't figure out how to digest correctly. I also, in the process of all of this, I started taking supplements, but I took supplements specifically based off of my genetic mutations that I have. And so it wasn't just guesswork. Oh, here's a vitamin. I hear it's good for this. Oh, here's another vitamin. It's good for my heart. Oh, here's one. This is going to help with stress. No, I specifically tuned into what my gene mutations were and what supplements would be best to help. One of them was a methylated multivitamin, and that has the B vitamins in the form that my body can use. Again, instead of folic acid, instead of folate, it's 5-MTHF. And instead of the other forms of B12, I've got methylcobalamin because it's the methylated form. My body's able to use it. And these vitamins are going to help lower my homocysteine, give my body energy at the cellular level. So when I first started taking those, I noticed a major difference. Another one I started taking was the TMG. It stands for trimethylglycine. And that also helps your body with recycling the homocysteine, which helps prevent the toxic buildup that messes up with the mood and the hormones and focus. And it really does help a lot with being able to focus throughout the day. These 2 vitamins I literally take first thing in the morning. As soon as I wake up, that's what I go for. I also take creatine. There's information that's been coming out about, because back in the day, when I first started hearing about creatine several years ago, it was like, oh, that's for building muscle. It's just for muscle. But from what I've been learning is there's research out now about how creatine not just helps with muscle, but it also helps with the brain function as well. So I use it for brain and energy and not as well as for strength training. And it's been amazing for me. I just throw a little bit. I drink salt water first thing in the morning as well as taking a few supplements. So I just throw a little bit of creatine in with the salt water, shake it up, drink it down. Then I put Celtic sea salt into my water. So I get the good nutrients from the salt. There's been a lot of stuff like, oh, stay away from sodium, but you need the nutrients from the salt. So look into that. It's not just your average table salt kind of thing. Next thing I do is magnesium. And I take a magnesium complex in the evening before I go to bed because it helps calm down my nervous system, supports sleep, it reduces anxiety, and it also helps with your gut getting things moved along if you deal with constipation or any of those kinds of problems. It helps with that. And that's the cool thing about just taking all the magnesiums at one time. Because I used to try to take the specific magnesium for this, specific magnesium. And when I first started taking magnesium many years ago, I thought there was only one magnesium. Then I started finding out, oh no, there's magnesium glycinate, there's magnesium threonate. There's all these different types of magnesiums. And so when you start looking into taking magnesium, if you were to take magnesium, that is something you want to look at. Make sure you're taking the proper one. Then I started taking glycine and taurine. Both support detox and hormone health. Glycine helps with sleep and collagen formation, so you have healthy skin and muscle and all that. Taurine supports bile production, which helps you digest fats and clear out the toxins. I also started taking ubiquinol, which is the active form of CoQ10. Now, I've only heard of ubiquinol for heart health, but it is also vital for energy and mitochondrial health, especially if you've ever felt like drained no matter how much you rest. You're like, I slept for 8 hours last night. I woke up, I did a little bit of work, and I'm already tired again. Maybe you could look at the CoQ10. But there is a difference between CoQ10 and ubiquinol. The ubiquinol may be easier for your body to digest depending on how your body functions. Again, check your DNA. Then, last but not least, I took probiotics. And this is the fun thing because before I started looking into my DNA, I was studying probiotics. And there's so many different types of probiotics. I didn't realize that you need certain probiotics for certain functions for your gut. And so I have one that I take in the morning at wake up to get my gut kind of happy and cheerful, get all the healthy stuff moving around. And then I take another one to help with digestion and hormone health. And they're targeted probiotics and they help to rebalance the bacteria in my gut. And then they stop the bloating, the constipation, and the body odor, all that stuff. Everything started coming back down. And that's been amazing. So, all of that. Now, I'd like to say that's all I did, but I also switched up my lifestyle habits as well. I used to overtrain. I'd spend a couple hours at the gym. I would run an hour to an hour and a half almost every day. And it was a lot for my body. It put a lot of stress on my body. And if you have a lot of stress on your body and your body's trying to get rid of that, but you have these gene mutations that are slow with getting rid of stress hormones, then you're just really causing more problems. So I switched from overtraining and running way more than my body needed because, again, if you're running, that also puts stress on your body. And it's good in small amounts. But if you're doing it for long periods of time and your body's trying to heal at the same time, you've got more problems going on. So I focus more on strength training, walking, recovery, and I still run, but I don't run several miles every day like I used to. And I'll be honest, it was difficult switching because I enjoyed running. I still enjoy running, but my body feels so much better now that I've switched over to functioning with my fitness the way that my body functions best. I also ditched the caffeine overload, which was probably the hardest thing for me to do. I didn't completely get rid of the caffeine because I still like my morning cup of coffee. But I switched to mainly I just drink decaf coffee. Sometimes I'll throw in an extra regular caffeinated coffee, but for the most part, I'm drinking decaffeinated coffee. And that helps a lot because the caffeine overload was frying my nervous system, causing problems. I have the highs and the dips and all over the place. Not very fun. And the other thing too that I was looking into was optimizing my sleep. So that was something that I've been working on for about a year, trying to get my sleep exactly where it needs to be. And so I use magnesium, glycine, cold room temperatures. I have a routine that I go through to help with winding down every night. And then I also started practicing grounding. There's different techniques. You could walk outside, you could get a grounding mat. I started doing something I call a silent prayer, where you just sit still, be present. And then I also did deep breathing to calm my body's stress response so then my body realizes everything's fine. We don't need to be stressed out. And literally within a few months of making these changes, my bloating started going down. My skin stopped flaking. My period came back regularly with fewer symptoms. My anxiety dropped dramatically. And I started waking up more refreshed than before. And yes, my body composition improved, but more importantly, I felt more at peace. My body felt better and more energized for the first time in years. And it's natural energy. It's not the caffeinated energy I was used to, because I would be drinking 2, 3, 4 coffees a day and or a couple of energy drinks a day. Well, no, I'd stick to one energy drink plus 1 or 2 coffees. And it was a lot of caffeine that I was putting in my body. I was drinking water, but I was having some major issues with getting too much caffeine in my body just to have a normal functioning day. So, if this sounds like some of the symptoms you've had, maybe checking your DNA, implementing some of the things I suggested that I've done, maybe it would help, because your body's not trying to cause you problems. Your body's trying to keep you alive and take care of you. It's trying to protect you. But when your genes, your gut, your hormones are out of balance, life can feel pretty hard. And if any of this is familiar to you, just know, like, you're not alone. And the healing is possible. It's you don't have to be perfect. You just understand what your body really needs. And I talk more about this in the full weight loss transformation, all that. I have that in another video. So make sure you subscribe and comment, follow up so you can see what's going on with my other videos. And also, get your DNA tested. And so you can start figuring out how to help yourself get your body the healthiest it can be. Anyways, thanks for being here. I will see you guys in the next video.